Hi guys, Tatiana here. In this video we will talk about dictionaries in Python. This is the video from series Python for Beginners. You should be familiar with Python variables, numbers, strings and lists before watching this video and have Python installed. If you don't know how to do that or you're not familiar with any of these types, you can check my previous videos from this series and get familiar with it, and after that return to this one. It would be easier for you to follow the information. Also, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments in the comment section below. It would really support me and help me to continue creating videos like that. So let's talk about dictionaries. Along with lists, dictionaries are one of the most flexible built data type in Python. If we think about lists as ordered collections of objects, we can think about dictionaries as unordered collections. The chief distinction is that in dictionaries, items are stored and fetched by keys instead of by positional offset. So dictionaries also mutable, which means that object can be changed by using different operation on them. When coded as literal expressions, a dictionary is written as the key series of key value pairs, separated by commas and closed in curly braces. So let me just create few dictionaries to show you an example. I will open interactive Python prompt and create few dictionaries here. So the first one, if it would be our empty dictionary. So to create an empty dictionary, you just need to do just like that. So an empty dictionary is an empty set of braces. Also, for example, we will create another dictionary. We will name it person, and here we will store the information about person. So for example, we will store the name, which name would be our key, and John would be our value. So the person name is John. And then next key would be age, for example, and it would be 35. So John is 35. So age is key, 35 is the value. So we have key value pair. Also, we can create our dictionary just like that, nesting. And why? Because dictionaries is also support arbitrary nesting. So in the value, you could set another dictionary. For example, we have a car here, which would be our key, but as the value, we would have another dictionary, which would have some additional information. So for example, color, and for example, year. Just like that. So we created our dictionary with car, and this is the value, which is another dictionary. So dictionaries support arbitrary nesting. There is also a different way to create the dictionaries. You can use a dict function for that. So just like that. So for example, we would have dict, and here we would have name equal to John, and age equal to 35, just like that. So we created the same dictionary as person, but in different way, and we set it to different variable. But if we would check, we would see that they are the same, our person and John, because we just created it differently. Also, there is one more way to create this dictionary. For example, we will reassign our dict, so we can create it like that. So here, instead of equal, we would just use a key value pair. So we will have our key name and value John. And then the next pair, we would have age and value 35. And everything in here would be as the list. So in the result, we would have exactly the same dictionary as we just created. So there is different ways to create dictionaries. Now, let's talk about basic dictionary operations. And the first one would be is to get the value by key, and you can do that just like that. So for example, you would like to know what is person name, sorry. Let me just clear it. So for example, you want to know what this person name, you could just do it just like that using square braces. So person name, and in the result we will get John. If you remember, we use the same square bracket syntax to index lists by offset, but here it means access by key, not by position, because as you remember, I mentioned before, the dictionaries is not ordered. So that is why we don't use order as we did with the list. Of, for example, with list we just use the number here, the order 0, 1, 2, 3, and etc. But with the dictionaries we set the key and get the value. Also, lists support arbitrary nesting, as I told, so we can go even deeper. Dictionaries support the arbitrary nesting, so we can go even deeper in our dictionary. So for example, we created our nesting dictionary, which is here. So you want to get car, and you want to get not just the car value, but the specific year, for example, and in the result you will get a year. So you can go deeper and deeper and deeper as much as here you have the information. Also, if you saw, I just in the examples before, I just used all of the keys as strings, but it's not the case. It doesn't mean that you have to do that. You can also use integers and floats. So for example, we could create a new dictionary and set our key as integer, as for example 1, just like that, and then you could get the value just by indexing just like that. For value it could be anything. So for value you can store another dictionary, you can store float, integer, list, and etc. So let me just create some example also with the D. So the first, you could store string. So here is the value string. You could also store as the value integer. You could also store as the value float, just like that. You could also store list, some list here, just like that. 1, 2, 3. Or even another dictionary, as we saw in our dictionary, as we saw in our nesting example also. So just 1 and 1. So this is a valid dictionary. You can store in the value different information. So for example, if you would like to get the list, and you could even get, for example, the first value of the list, just like that. Also, the built-in function length also work on dictionaries. It returns the number of items stored in the dictionary, or equivalently the length of its keys. So for example, if we will check the length of our D, we would see that it's 5. And why? Because we have first, second element, third, fourth, and fifth. Even though here inside it's another objects in list and another objects in dictionary, we will not count them in the length, because in the length we would get all of the lengths of all of our keys. The dictionary in membership operator also allows you to test for key existing. So for example, you can check whether some key are in our dictionaries, and for that you could use in operator. So for example, you check if string in D, you would get true. If, for example, test in D, we will get false, because we have test, but test is not the key, but the value. And in operator is checking whether the key is in the dictionary. So just for you to remember. So now we will talk about different ways how to change dictionaries. So as I mentioned before, dictionaries are mutable, so you can change them, expand and shrink them in place without making new dictionaries. Simply, you can assign a value to a key to change or create an entry. So for example, we can change our dictionary just like that. The string, and for example, we will have my string here. So now instead of test, we would have my string. So you change the value for key string for this dictionary. So you change the object itself. So in case if you would have shared references, as an example I showed in the list, you would change it for both variables that are referred to the object, because you are changing the object itself. If you don't understand what I mean, please check my previous video with the list. There is a very good example there. Also, the delete statement works here. So it deletes the entry associated with the key specified as an index. So for example, del d float. And if we will check our D, you would see that float is not here. So we delete the key value pair. Also, you can create a new entry to your dictionary just like that. So for example, we will create a new value, which we would name, for example, file. So we will create a new key file. It's not here yet, as you can see. And we will store some value here, for example, txt. And in the result, you see that we added one more element, one more key value pair to our dictionary just by assigning. And also we did change the object directly. So now let's talk about dictionary methods. Let me just clear and go into Python prompt. To check them all, you can always use help in interactive Python prompt. It will work even offline. A really great tool. I use it very often, but if you saw previous videos of this series, I am sure that you already know, but I will show. So to get all of the methods and everything about dictionaries, you can just type help dict and get all of the information that you need. Let me just go into Python again, and I need to create our dictionary again. So we have our dictionary, and in this dictionary I will show you all of the methods. So the first method is copy. And our copy would return you a shell of copy of your dictionary. So you could just use it just like that. So we have, as the result, we have our copy. Another method is get. It's return the value for key if key is in the dictionary. Else return you none, or you can set a default. So for example, let me just show you d get, and we want to get, for example, string. And you see in the result we get string. If we would ask for the key that it's not available, for example, float is not available, we will get none. So we will get nothing. Or you could set a default. So for example, we would set that if there is no float, return no. And in the result, you will get no, because you said that the default would be no. You can also get an element just using indexing, as we did before. Remember, so we just used indexing. You can get the element just like that, is the same way, but there is a difference between get method and indexing. In realistic programs that gather data as they run, you often won't be able to predict what will be in a dictionary before the program is launched. So fetching a non-existence key is normally get you an error. So for example, if we will get our float here, we would get an error. So you see, because there is no key. But if we will use our method get, we could set the default, or we will just get the none. So we will skip the error. It's an easy way to fill in a default for a key that isn't present and avoid missing key error when your program can't anticipate contents ahead of time. Usually in the programs, for me, I'm using get method. So the next one is items. It will return you a set-like object with all of the items in our dictionary. So for example, in the result, we will get all of the items here. Also, we have keys. So in the result, we will get the set-like object just like this one, but just with the keys. So you see here just a string and integer, no values. And of course, you could guess that there is available method called values where you would get just values. So all of this method that we just showed, they did not change our object, but the method that I will show next, they all will change our object directly. So when you will use it in your code, be careful with them because you would change the object directly. So the first one is pop. It's remove the specific key and return the corresponding value. So if the key is not found, return the default if it's given, otherwise it will raise you a key error. So let me just show it. For example, we have our D and we can pop and, for example, string. If you see, we have the value, but if you would check our object after that, you see that it's changed. For now, we have just one element here, our integer 1. The next one is update. It will merge two dictionaries. For example, we will update our dictionary and we will add our string back. So it merges the keys and values of one dictionary to another, blindly overriding the value of the same key if there is the clash. So for example, let me just show it right away. If we will set another integer 2, so we will override the value of this one. If we will check, so you see that integer now is 2, a string is test. So if you're using this method, if you already have the key present, it will override the value of for this key. If it's different, and if you don't have the key present, it will add to your object. Then another method is set default. So insert a key with the value of default if key is not in the dictionary. So return the value for key if it is in the dictionary. So for example, the set default, for example, test and test. We will see that we just added our test here as the default. And the last method that I will show, it would be clear. It would remove all of the items from our dictionary and it will return you none. So you see our dictionary is empty now. So that is all for this video for today. In this part we learned the basics of dictionaries, but during this series we will return and dive deeper into dictionaries and lists in the next videos, and we will work with them more and create the real programs very soon. So we will finish with all of the basics types, and after that we will start to dig in more into programming itself. So looking forward to make more videos for you. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your reactions, and remember, knowledge is our superpower.